Okay, folks, if we could get back in our seats, we'll get this thing started off again. We can get started again at any second. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to Mount Vernon City Schools. I'm Rick Shaffer. I've been with the district for 27 years. I was hired in as a maintenance guy, and then Mr. Cedar, our super, came, and it used to be maintenance and transportation was together. We've split it since then. Just to give you a little bit of history, I do the maintenance side, and then I started to go into helping the principals with their EOPs, and I really found my why when I got into school safety. I've got a passion for school safety. I try to do my best to keep all our kiddos safe. But welcome to the district. This is our EMA director.
James DeShant, Knox County EMA director. Been at that about 2 years. Spent 25 years in law enforcement, the last 22 at Mount Vernon. Before that, part of the emergency services unit. That's where I met Rick as we got into the schools and started training. Where we didn't have to mock up another vacant house or something to look like a school. He actually got us in the schools. So that kind of started our relationship. And then when I moved to EMA, of course, all the emergency planning and things that come with that brought Rick and I back together.
So we just want to share our plan. Take what you can from it, learn from it. If you have something that we've missed, please share it with us. We've developed a plan that our entire county has adopted, which has been amazing because we've learned, even with a district the size of Mount Vernon or the Career Center, we can't do it by ourselves when it comes to reunification. Like Kyle had mentioned earlier in his presentation, everybody's going to be affected. So if we can use other district support staff or our support staff to help the affected buildings, we think the challenge will be less. So we named this Reunification Doing a Lot with a Little because we're doing a lot of stuff, but we're just asking for a little help from each district. If we could get 6 or 8 folks from each district to cross-train in some certain things, especially the checker positions, which you'll see that in a little bit. Everybody in Knox County uses Power School except Mount Vernon. We use Dazzle. So we need to cross-train those folks in that checker position so that when we do make that call, they can come in to the field house, set up, and everybody knows what they're doing there. So
with that being said, we also look at our response. So Knox County being a rural community, a lot of our fire departments are still volunteer departments. Our law enforcement departments, we have 2 and 3 officers, sometimes 4 if we're lucky on the street at one time. We're not Franklin County, we're not Columbus. We don't have 200 officers on the street to pull from to do something like this. Plus we also have those day-to-day emergencies that are going to happen during large-scale events. So we also have a little, when you talk in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to staffing and being able to respond.
So the first part of this PowerPoint is directed towards schools and school districts and trying to help find somebody within your district to do kind of what I do or to grab that safety piece. A lot of schools rely on their SROs to do their operation plans or to help with reunification plans and all that. Well, they're going to be busy when the event happens. So your SROs they're a great resource, don't get me wrong, but they're not the folks to really that know the district inside and out and to write those plans. So if you can find that person, I don't know how, there we go. So how we got here, several years ago, Mark Maxwell was EMA director. We started a P20 committee. And the next slide, you'll see everybody that's a part of that P20 committee. That stands for PK through 20. we have a college and a university in Knox County. So MVNU and Kenyon, we meet monthly just to share resources. So all the county schools are invited to that, and we just go over safety plans, what we're doing, what kind of training we're doing, and it's been huge. Out of that, we started a rescue task force where we have our fire and PD working together to get into the buildings much sooner. Instead of waiting until threats neutralized, we're training within our county for medics to going into warm zones. Not the hot zone, but the warm zone, so where you can get to those casualties sooner than later. Getting involved was, with any training, that's where I really dove in. If they needed somebody to mock up that had been shot or lost a limb or something, I was right there. I went to a lot of the trainings, which really benefited me to know how the first responders are going to handle things when they come into our buildings. And then I can be that liaison with our admin team and say, okay, when PD comes in, they're stepping over folks to get to the threat or to neutralize things. They're not the medics. So that stemmed into Stop the Bleed training in our district. So it just keeps evolving. Open our schools up to first responders. So like JT had mentioned earlier, anytime somebody needs a building to do some training, if it's unoccupied, you're welcome to come use them. First responders get in, they learn our buildings, they know how the layouts are going to work. It's just very, very good. Safety training between districts, that's where I'll go to East Knox and do a vulnerability assessment on their building. They would come here, do a vulnerability assessment on mine, because I might walk by something every day and I miss it. But if you can get your other district involved to help do those vulnerability assessments, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, the opening the schools to the first responders, I think, is a big key to this relationship building. So Rick has kind of standing orders with local fire, EMS, and LE that they can come eat lunch at the school with Rick, meet the kids, and they do a walk through the building. So it's not just, oh, I've seen what this footprint of this building looks like. No, I've been to this building now. If you're from the school, I'd suggest it be maybe pizza day on the menu when you invite these first responders in. And if you're not getting that invite and you're on that fire or LE, EMS side and you're not getting those invites in, then make that knock and talk. Hey, we'd like to get into your school so we can respond better. We want to know what the floor plan looks like. We want to know where the hidden closets are. That's how we can better serve our people.
So when I was talking early, last year, we had all of our doors in this building replaced. So we were talking about it, and one of our Mount Vernon fire guys says, well, man, that'd be great if we could use that to train on real doors. And so I got a hold of our company that was replacing the doors, and they said, well, heck yeah, if they want to demo the doors, that saved us some work. So our fire department demoed our doors for us and got to use all their new breaching tools and all that stuff. And then the installers came in behind them to put the new doors in. Just a simple way to, if you're doing a project like that in your district, invite them in. It's just another way to get them in there.
Yeah, never miss that opportunity to drill or exercise.
So here's another, we were doing an RTF training upstairs. This is a Stop the Bleed. Mr. Lanuz is putting on a tourniquet there. He's in the crowd today. Thank you. So this is what I was talking about, our RTF team walking through. So we got one PD, three or four medics, and then another law enforcement behind. And I just wanted to share with you these photos just because this is something that we do a lot. In fact, this summer we got 2 different OPADA trainings at Twin Oak. We just did one over spring break. So we try to pick a different building, get folks in, and let them learn. So this is everybody that's involved in that P20 committee. One entity that I don't see here, but I think is very important when it comes to reunification, is that Knox Community Hospital. a lot of folks forget their hospital. You want to involve them in any of your planning, because when we went up there, the kids are ours from the time we get them from the parent until we give them back, whether that's at the ER or anywhere. So if Johnny sprained his ankle running outside and he's at the ER, we need to make sure we have somebody up there to make sure we make that connection. So hospitals have crazy internet. You can't, firewalls. So we went up there with our PCs and our programs, and we made sure that we were able to use our stuff and get out, so that if this was to happen, we can have a liaison go to the hospital and make sure that we make that correct connection. And that kind of stemmed into a PEDS reunification policy for KCH. So just every conversation you have with another entity seems to drive something else that makes our community better. So find that person within your district. If you have somebody ex-law enforcement, ex-first responder, military, I think I'm a passion for soul safety. I'm also blessed. I mentioned I'm the director of buildings and grounds. I have an awesome team on the maintenance side that allows me to pour my heart into the safety side. We're blessed to have a couple great guys that gives me the time to do this kind of stuff. But once you find that person, it's learning the communication, the language, the first responder language, and being a liaison for the admin folks, because it's a different world when you're first responders talking to admin. So if you have that person that can be that bridge, it makes it much easier.
And that's the opening act.
Yeah. So with that, I'll get on with our Knox County Reunification Plan. So this used to have a big M on it for Mount Vernon. I've taken that off because we've gotten everybody in Knox County on board, all of our districts, to adopt this plan. So pretty proud of that. It's been a long road, but we're there. So the event plus response equals the outcome. And I just have this here because everybody goes to that first one there, the intruder, but you need to think of all hazards. It could be anything that could cause you to have to do a reunification. So the response, when we go through this, we make sure that we're bringing it up so our staff know that they need to have the go bags. How should they evacuate the building, depending on the situation, making sure that they know where rally points are. That's a big one. Once we go to rally points, then we want to initiate the reunification plan. So earlier, Kyle had mentioned the incident command structure, and he nailed it when he talked about a lot of folks see that first little bit there, and they think that's all we really need. But once you start doing a tabletop, you'll learn pretty quick that you need a lot of folks to be able to run this and run it efficiently. So this is part of our structure. Then it jumps down to all of these other entities, and then we have backups for backups. But that checker position is the position that I was talking about that we really need to do the cross training on. The other positions, I have job action worksheets. So if you were to come to our reunification, I can hang you a Wrangler vest, a radio, and a clipboard with a job action worksheet that would tell you what to do in your first 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's very simple. You're just basically being an usher at that point. But some of the others are a little more critical, where we'll build those teams for the county. So I did a site plan here just to kind of show you where we are. And so down here at the bottom, the octagon is where we're sitting. Across the road is the new bus garage maintenance facility. That would be our unified command center. So if Danville goes into goes to the rally point and they're coming to reunification, then we'll have their phones forwarded to that building where we'll have 6 phones set up in a room so that if somebody calls wanting to find out what's going on, they're not getting a dead line. So we'll have somebody there to answer those phones. You can see we have a spot for media, the road closures there. We may even, the road closure down here by the field house could be a medic. We may just park a medic there so that if something happens in the field house, somebody needs to go to the hospital, then we can just move down to each door. They could jump in the medic and head to KCH. So this is a footprint of the Energy Field House. When I first started talking about reunification, our reunification site was the Station Break, which is also the FAC or Family Assistance Center for Red Cross. And I was looking at the blueprint and the footprint, and I thought, man, how are we ever going to do this? And we have a local company in town that was very generous to help us to provide us with a building like this, and it made it so much better. They're very community oriented. I don't know that until today they didn't realize that they were actually helping the entire county. It's been a blessing to have this building.
And we realize not every community is going to have a building like ours. But just think about the considerations we made about how the foot traffic flow will operate in whatever facility you have. Several of the schools that have decided to adopt this countywide plan actually went out to their churches and municipal buildings where they had these MOUs and walked through and said, yeah, you know what? We can't get 600 kids in this building. Well, why would you ever think you would even want to try that then? So I think the thing that kind of started it, so other than Frederick, I think Fredericktown is the only district within the county that their campus K through 12 is all under one roof. So they don't have that ability to put, maybe the elementary on lockdown and deal with the situation at the high school. That's not going to happen at Fredericktown. Everybody's got to go. And that's when we looked at Energy Fieldhouse being an option for them.
Yeah, it's been a blessing, that's for sure. So this is the footprint of the field house where everybody checked in this morning. We'll walk through. It's all set up. We'll walk through after the presentation here. So this is where the students would come, to the back of the field house. So when we exit, you'll see a school bus parked over there across the road at the back of the field house, and then they would go in the man door. And once they come into that building, you'll see the signs. They'll be facing that back door. And once everybody's accounted for within here, then we'll turn those signs around so that they're facing the front. That's just one way that we know everybody's accounted for there. There'll also be radio traffic and some other ways that we'll know, but that's just a quick visual that, hey, all the first grade kiddos are in their stall. And because the biggest thing about this is we want to keep the affected building, no matter what it is or where the affected district, in this part. We don't want them to have to work the situation. Not that it wouldn't be a good idea to have somebody from the affected building out front, just so parents see a familiar face. But it's key, I think, to keep the affected kiddos with their teachers so that they're not with strangers.
So when the schools leave their rally points, those bus routes are already predetermined within each district's operational plan. It's also part of that plan for law enforcement to provide security, either roving from rally point to reunification back and forth, or an escort. So we have that security with that, as well as they're at that back door where the buses are making that loop. That's already pre-designated that we're going to have perimeter security there as well as interior security.
Yeah, we'll even go into as deep as our probation officers. Anybody with some type of security will be here on scene.
Yeah, so part of that earlier discussion about doing a little with a lot, we understand that our uniformed officers, our specialty SWAT officers, they're going to probably if it's an active threat event. They're probably going to be mostly at that event. We're not going to have their bodies for perimeter security and things like that, or traffic control. But anybody with a gun and a badge, probation, ODNR, State Patrol, we've already brought them into this plan, and that's where I don't have to do any on-the-job training. They know how to do traffic control. They know how to do security. So that's where we'll utilize those folks. The only thing we ask is they are readily identifiable, and they're donning their vest that says probation, parole, whatever.
So once we decide that we got to kick this off, then parents they'll get a notification that we've had to evacuate. We're going to a rally point, or going to reunification. I'm sorry, and that's where to report. We'll also let them know, make sure you have a photo ID once you come. So when the parents will pull into the front of the field house where most of you parked, and then they'll walk up into the locker rooms. There will be greeters there with clipboards and paper, so that they'll give them the paperwork that they need to fill out, and it kind of keeps them busy and answer any questions that they may have. So this is just a photo of the form that we've got pre-made. It's just to go back with that. Every time a district jumps on board, we find loops that we close up. The Career Center they're right here on our campus, so that when we did theirs, we learned we didn't have enough restrooms, so I got on the horn, got an MOU with some Porta-John folks, and we've got restrooms coming. Danville, they made this form a little cleaner, added some boxes, and Fredericktown just kind of changed our layout. Mr. Cedar, our super, kind of steered me in that direction, you'll see here at the end.
Yeah, so each time we either drill or exercise with this, we take advantage of that and take that input, and that's where we've come up with new challenges that we've had to create something to make it stronger.
Yeah. So once you come in, you'll go to that checker station. You'll see these set up over there. So there'll be 4 computers in each locker room with 4 checkers in each locker room. So 4 folks that are cross-trained in either Power School or Dazzle, and they'll make that check to make sure they have their ID. If it is somebody that does not have an ID, then we'll have Mount Vernon PD here with their software, and then we would take them up there to that room 114, 113, coach's office, so that the MVPD can go through and make sure that we're talking to the person that we're talking to make sure we get them back to the right kiddo. If they're not getting a kiddo, if they were hurt and they're at KCH, then we would bring them across to the counselors area. We have MOUs in place with BHP and some other counselors within the county, the law enforcement chaplains. So they would be in there to deliver any news. And then if you are getting a kiddo, then a wrangler, you would go out here to the wrangler spot, and then they would take you out to the arena. But something else that I'd like to bring up is our IT department split our Wi-Fi, so we don't, because if we do high school, we would overload all the kiddos coming in that back with their cell phones and stuff. It's going to tax that Wi-Fi, so we've split it so that Reunification will have its own Wi-Fi. So once they open up their Chromebooks that are sitting on that desk, it'll tell them what Wi-Fi to hit with the password, so that we're not interrupting that process. So this was kind of the way it looked before Fredericktown got involved, and we had to kind of restructure things. I throw that in there just because I want to show folks that it's constantly evolving. It's a very fluid plan. This kind of would have worked, and it did work when we ran through some other drills, but with Fredericktown bringing 1,200 kiddos here, we wouldn't have had enough room. So we went to this layout, which is the parents are going down the center and getting their kiddos. So they come in with that piece of paper to that wrangler station. There are 2 mics set up front, and Johnny Smith, first grade, go to your matchmaker. they come to the table up front. Mr. or Mrs. Smith come up, they show the matchmaker all the paperwork's been checked, and they gather up their student, and then they exit down the center and out the back door that the kiddos came into, and then back to the parking lot. After we laid this out, I thought this is great for all the plans because we got center line of sight for the parents. If you have multiple grade kiddos, you can just kind of make your way out the back. The layout just works so much better. We have special needs back towards the back, so that's where we would keep those kiddos. But I think this flow is going to be much, much better. But I think we have a couple superintendents here in the audience. If I could just ask a couple questions. I'm going to hit Kathy first, the superintendent of the Career Center. What intrigued you to jump on board?
Definitely the partnership is important wherever that is, whether it's with another school district or with a college nearby or a church. We will not be able to handle all of this on our own, as it's been stated earlier today. I think every time I view a situation on TV or something unfolding, I realize again that the people on the ground are going to be so involved in dealing with the emotions and the crisis and just everything that's going on right then and there, that we've got to be able to go, okay, put the plan in place. And if our Career Center students are headed to our rally point, I know then that the busing situation with Mount Vernon Nazarene University will take place, and then they'll get them down here, and Rick will have everything set up here. So it's really a relief off my mind, because I know that the plan will function because there's so many people involved, and we all have practiced our parts. And hopefully our radios will work and our cell phones will be charged and all of those things. But I feel very blessed to be in this county. We're the most collaborative place I've ever seen, and we do amazing things together, and this is just one of them.
Yes. Thank you.
Kathy, you brought up a good point about the busing. So the Career Center's busing plan involves Mount Vernon Nazarene University. They're right behind them, basically, the campus behind them. We also have a busing MOU with all the schools. So if it's at Danville School, we don't have to worry about Danville's buses necessarily being able to get there. We can call the other schools and have those buses.
Yes,
Rick has been an intricate part of that with Mount Vernon's busing. About a month ago, we had a fire at a nursing home. And I'd been there about 20 minutes walking around. I turn around and there stands Rick, and he says, well, I just called the bus garage. I heard this on the radio, and we got buses warmed up in case you got to move these folks to Energy Field House where we can reunify them with family members. So this isn't just about schools. This is about any type of reunification you might want to do.
Yeah, the community involvement is amazing in Knox County. Anytime that I get an opportunity to thank our first responders, I do, because everybody works amazing together. We're so blessed in Knox County to have the folks that we do. I can't say enough about it. But Mr. Cedar, do you have anything to add?
Well, good morning and welcome to Mount Vernon. I'm the superintendent here at Mount Vernon, and really blessed to have this fellow right here. So proud of him. Proud of our Board of Education. Dr. Bennett, who's board president at the time, supported me in the idea of a safety person on staff. But I'm also very protective of Rick, so if anybody has any desire to take him away, we're ready to go right here. So, but he's done an amazing job. So we've had a number of projects in Mount Vernon and blessed with the Ariel Foundation and others to build facilities like this. And it's all been part of a shared process. When you see our field house, we share it with MBNU, we share it with our community. When you see MBNU's soccer field out there, it's shared. When you see our new bus garage where our incident command center is, that's our building in Mount Vernon, but it's on MBNU property, and we have shared use agreements with it. The city has joined in, and I think when we really got into this mindset that we don't all have to have our own stuff, we can share it, we can work together. And so when this reunification piece came in, and Rick really led this, we were gonna use the field house, this was just us at the beginning. And then we thought, well, why not share this resource and see if others might have the ability to use it? And that's where this thing really kind of grew. And so I would say it's really important to get MOUs involved in all of these kinds of things. Rick and I did sit down early on and we developed our own plan here, and it's probably changed 2 or 3 or even 4 times when we brought other people into the mix. And so to have one plan that serves the entire county and we can all support each other, I think it's awesome. And it's been Rick's and our EMA directors really input that's made that work. We have great community involvement with our fire, EMS, and police. As a matter of fact, they come to our board office. They get fobs to get into our buildings. And so we're able to really work. They have access to our camera systems. And so it's been a really neat partnership to see unfold. So Rick, thanks, and again, welcome. I hope you get a chance to walk over here in a minute and see what we've kind of put together. And again, if you have ideas that can make ours even better, we're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, talking about sharing the resources, we didn't even get into the entertainment bins. So Rick has put together totes on wheels that have board games and coloring books and things like that. And in one of these first drills or exercises that we did, I hear somebody kind of snicker and says, yeah, well, coloring books, really? What do you need that for? I thought, you know what? Have you ever been in a room with 20 kindergartners for 4 or 5 hours? And they're like, point well taken. So movies on thumb drives. TVs that you're able to wheel out and put movies on for these kids. You got to think about those kind of things. We've got food service right here at Mount Vernon with any of these buildings that we can feed these children.
Yeah, we're also blessed with Nationwide Children's Hospital. We have them a part of this building. If this goes down, they're willing to come down and help out in any way.
So we've got meds on site for things like that. That if you have children that are incident dependent and they've left their book bag that has their meds, we have that ability. Because let's face it, reunification for any size event at a school, you're not talking all of 2 hours, wipe our hands, we're all going home. This is going to be an 8-hour event. I think at the very least to get everybody through things like this.
Yeah, I think another key to this, and maybe Jason can add to that, is with small villages, since we're one of the bigger districts, we're going to relieve a lot of pressure in Danville or Fredericktown or Centerburg so that law enforcement and investigators can do their jobs. If we bring reunification to Mount Vernon, we just alleviated a ton of pressure from your village, so that then that gets you back into your building sooner. I think that's pretty huge. That I know that you got to get the buy-in to get the parents to come. They're like, why do we want to go clear all the way to Mount Vernon? Well, it's just so that we can do it, and it's all about accountability. We want to keep your kiddos safe, and we want to get them back to you as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that we do it the right way. But Mr. Snively, do you have anything to add from Danville?
Again, just want to, I'm Jason Snively, Superintendent at Danville, smallest school district in the county, probably 2 or 3 counties around. Just want to, again, thank Rick and Mount Vernon Schools for supporting us. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, I attended my first P20 meeting and with my SRO at the time. And I'm sitting there, and it was actually a kind of a debriefing from, probably have some people here from Licking County, but the situation they had a few years ago. And what I sat there and observed was, I know they all work together, but there was a blame game through that whole time. Like, well, we didn't know anything. We don't know what's going on, whether it be the EMTs, the law enforcement. No one really had a unified, I guess, collaborative plan of how's this going to work. Who's supposed to communicate with who here? And I think that was one of the things that just sparked us. Like, yeah, at Danville, there's one, and school administration and everything, and even police chief or police department, there's one person that does one of every job description. And sometimes there's one person that does 4 job descriptions. So we have to look at that to where, okay, how are we going to do this? we couldn't do it. And I'm sitting there like, there's no way that I can manage all this, I can communicate with people. And then I think with the relationship that the SRO that we have currently kind of had within the county already, got to talking, he was sat down and kind of designed the reunification plan that we have for another site. And like, okay, he was working hard to do that, but then he has his contacts in the county, and Rick and some of the JT and the others said, why are we recreating this? Because now I have to do all this other communication with the county EMA, EMTs, fire departments that's going to have to serve us. Like, why would we want to go to have our own when we can go to one place in Mount Vernon? So, as we looked through that, it was an obvious decision for us to partner with Mount Vernon because, like I said, even at Danville, we have 2 or 3 teachers per grade level, 100 staff total. There is no way. I have 2 counselors in the district. Part of reunification is also not just about getting kids back to their parents. It's about having that reunifying them to their parents, and what do you do afterwards, and the social emotional that goes along with it. So there's no way we could have done it justice. I say it all the time, we would fail, and I'm still confident that Danville, we would fail if we didn't have the partnership with Mount Vernon, with the EMA and Rick and everything there. So it takes all the load off of us, because in Danville especially, half of my teachers probably have kids in the district. If they don't, they have relatives, or they probably married. We have staff members that are married and everything that live in the county, live in the district. So if there's an active threat, we're not going to be thinking straight enough to organize all this. The great thing here is, I'm sure Rick will probably show you, what we'll see is, when we make the call, if there's an incident, then we reach out to Rick, and all we do is worry about our kids. We get them on the bus, we get them here, and we walk into it. My administration, myself, my teachers, we did this last fall, went through the exercise. We thought nothing of the site, absolutely nothing. All we had to deal with was just getting our kids here. Another thing that we come up with after some of that was putting together, we've created what we call our emergency portal. One of the things that come up through the discussions was, what about all these other entities, whether it be the hospital where kids could end up, it could be other places, when the staff that's here. As Rick mentioned, the operating systems, the student data system, they use Dazzle, we use PowerSchool. But within that, all these people that's coming together, how do they get access to those? So what we've done, and my IT guy's working on it, we just changed our website, so we got to update it, but I was talking to him earlier, he's getting there, is that now what we have, emergency portal will be one password that will get everyone, that will get all EMAs, whoever we designate to have that password, will be able to go in and access everything that they would need. And that's everything from our EOPs that will be on that portal. They get into it, they can see whether it's somebody that's on site, the fire department, or other agencies coming from the outside that may not be there. In an active threat, we're going to have people probably from all over the state showing up. So this is one way we can get them the information they need instead of relying on a binder that's somewhere. It's electronically accessible. We can get all passwords for our data collection system at one time through a portal on our website. And I think the other districts are probably going to work through that as well. But that was one of the things that just come from our training together that come out of that. So again, would never want to do this district driven of reunification to be on the district that it's happening to. I think everyone would fail if you're relying on your own people only to be there. Even like what Rick says, Mount Vernon has more resources than anyone else just because of the size and the proximity of where they are in the county, but even their people aren't going to be thinking that straight that day. So we don't have a lot to send, but I'll send 2 or 3 counselors up. I'll send an SRO up that can help monitor things and help support them. So every little bit I think would help. But for those of you that aren't from Knox County, I highly recommend that you work with your county people and put something like this together. It's a benefit not just to the school district, but all the support entities in the county. That one way of doing everything sure reduces those communication concerns that everyone says, well, I didn't know, and who's supposed to tell us? That was the key thing that I took from that P20 meeting that prompted all this. How are we going to communicate one thing at one time so we don't have all these other entities that we need to communicate with? So appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thank you. That brings up a very good point. Mount Vernon is big, but we couldn't do this alone. Even with Columbia, one of our smallest buildings, I don't believe we could do it by ourselves just because we have so many. There's 238 kiddos at Columbia today. That could affect a lot of folks just because they know somebody at Columbia. So we don't want to tax those folks with running that front side. After we've done each one of these drills, we send out a questionnaire. What did we do wrong? What did we miss? What can we do better? And one of the first ones I mentioned earlier was the restrooms. This building only has a couple restrooms up there at the front. So when I called Miller and I said, how fast can you get me 6 porta-johns? So he said, I can have them for you within an hour. Created an MOU with them so we can have porta-johns wheeled inside in the back. He'll bring 6 regular porta-johns and 1 ADA porta-john so that we can keep everybody from the affected building in that area and not letting them go have any crossover. But it's I can't say enough how blessed I am to be here with all of you folks. We have Mount Vernon PD here, Mount Vernon Fire, Fredericktown Fire. We have a rep from Ariel here, and JT. We're just very blessed in Knox County. Are there any questions at all, or anything that I missed?
Do you have anything set up for security before bringing in students here? If it's a countywide plan, everyone knows where it is. It would be very easy to make this a secondary target.
Yes, that is part of our response plan, is to have security and all those things in place before that call is ever made to that rally point to say we're ready for your people. Part of setting up for today, Rick used that for his staff. You had what, 4 folks over there from your maintenance
4
ops?
Mm-hmm.
Used it as a drill today to say, how long is it going to take? So when my admin says, if and when there's an event, how long do we can get students in there? We've kind of got a good idea of that. 4 of them set it up in an hour and 45 minutes today.
And
that was even cutting some new chain
that
yeah, they didn't have ready yet. So take advantage of things like even presentations, walkthroughs with other people. Take advantage of those.
Yeah, just the more times we do it, the more things that we find that we could do to improve it. And like I mentioned earlier, if there's something out there that you've got that we missed, we'd greatly appreciate it. This is an open book, so anybody that can take from it and make it their own, you're more than welcome. I just want to make sure we send all the kiddos that we get, send them all home.
As part of the countywide response team of school administrators, we've discussed that they know which traffic control point they're supposed to report to. Part of that is tasking that officer at that traffic control point to allow certain people in and not allow certain people in. We don't want WNBS TV rolling in right in the middle of everything, right? But we need our school administrator that's going to help with reunification to be able to get in there. So we've talked about a pass system or something they would have on their lanyard that they could show that officer that, allows them through that point. So there again, that was a discussion brought up. What do we do? Mount Vernon PD was discussing, okay, well, what if we have somebody there that's not familiar with running that? Well, part of that plan is on the back side of the signage for that traffic control point that says, authorized access only, is a checklist that officer that's stationed there can look at that checklist and know what they're supposed to do.
Rick, one thing I will add, kind of think of that too, is that Danville, our school is right in the middle of town, and there's about 4 roads to get you in. Our issue there was, once we got in, how do we get everyone out? So we want to be able to get our kids out, because everybody and their brother Danville's probably going to be rolling in their side-by-sides and their shotguns and that to try to solve the situation.
Right.
The faster we can get our kids away from all of that, and get them to where parents can't get them, because they won't be able to get to them in the center of town. We heard the gentleman earlier talk about the whole traffic flow, how it just clusters everything up. So our idea of things to come to Mount Vernon is we isolate all that issue there and we get the kids away from it, instead of trying to find something even locally if we had it.
Right, and that brings up a very good point also for districts. Be very, just certainly let folks know, the parents know how it's going to work. You're not getting your kiddo at the scene, rally point, off the bus. You're getting your student at reunification, because we don't want those arteries clogged when we're trying to get first responders in there. So we need to make sure that the parents are going to the reunification site. I think that's something all of us as districts could do a better job of. Is just any time that we get in front of parents, make sure that they know where they're to get their kiddo. If you can get 60%, that's a win. If we can get 60% of the parents to come here instead of going to the site or try to get their kiddo off a bus. So just as much as you can communicate where they're going to get their kiddos, it'll just help the first responders on scene to take care of that. And this, I mean, to be frank, this is where we're going to be judged. This is where we're going to be on the news. So if you don't have a plan, please think about getting something in place just to and run through it, drill it, because it's not going to be a pretty sight, a quick, easy thing. But if you've got a plan in place and you work your plan, it's going to turn out a lot better. Like I mentioned, this is judgment here.
Right. Oh, sorry.
Nope.
One thing I can stress too, for us in Knox County, it's easy because we know where the reunification is, but for any districts, and that, make sure your dispatch center knows where that is, because I can guarantee you, that's where parents are going to call.
Gotcha.
Most of the time. So, anytime something's happening in the school, we get a call.
Okay.
Another thing not to do with reunification, which is in general, Mount Vernon City Schools has an excellent camera system, and that camera system is in our dispatch center. So if something happens in the school, we also can look and track. That's okay. But yeah, and again, Rick has done a great job, so.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's just like, I'm sorry I didn't see you sitting back there, but we have 911 here as well. So they've been a big part of all the training as well. So I can't say enough about our community and all the community involvement. Like JT had mentioned, I heard on the scanner about a fire, and I thought, well, they may need to evacuate. I might as well go. So.
And we didn't put all our eggs in one basket with this either. We do have secondary locations that everything within this reunification site we have here is in totes that we can put in trucks and we can put on trailers and we can take anywhere. It's scalable. So if we have a festival or a street fair downtown and there's need for reunification, we can bring that here as well.
All right, so if there are no other comments or questions, we can walk back over towards the field house and we will go to the front. If we could break up into two groups, there'll be folks inside. If you've seen it before, no, you don't have to, but you go through by alphabet, A and M, or N and Z, or just split in two and go through we'll do a walkthrough and we'll have folks over there to answer any questions. Thank you all.